Hello, and thank you for being here with me today. My name is Jacqueline Moore, and I'm here to share an idea with you. It's the kind of idea that can be interpreted in infinite ways. The most brilliant thoughts tend to be simple, and this is certainly a simple one. Equally important, a simple thought has the chance to set imaginations alight and spread throughout the world. This is not an original idea, mind you. I assure you, you have all had the very idea that I will discuss with you today. The fact that you have already had this idea is significant to us here in this moment. Because the idea that I'm here to share that you've already had requires each of us, all of us, to be fully realized. In order to begin, I must first ask each of you to take a moment and consider this question. Reflect on the path of your life for a moment. Have you experienced times where you were at a crossroads? Of course you have. You're human after all. That's not the question, by the way. So, the question is, recall a time when your life might have traveled a different, potentially darker path. A time when you despaired and felt alone. Was there someone unexpected who was there for you, who lifted you up, showed you hope, and helped you in some small way? How important was that small kindness to you? For many people, perhaps all of us, the unexpected kindness of a stranger has made an enormous difference. No one's perfect, certainly not me. No one's born in a vacuum. Everyone needs a hand from time to time. I believe this is a narrative that every one of us shares. I'd like to tell you a story of a young woman, a young mom actually, just into her 20s. Newly divorced, living in Key West, moving from apartment to apartment and holding things together for her and her young son. Sound familiar? I think it does. So she moves into her new place, a small 2-bedroom concrete block duplex. Do you remember going to summer camp or college or somewhere that your parents took you where you stayed away from home? Did your mom make your bed for you? Or did your dad slip you $10 with a wink for some candy? Did one of them make sure you felt settled before they got back in the car to head home? I'll bet one of them did, and if they didn't, I bet you were wishing they did. So she's there, our young mom, with boxes and bags and all of her stuff. She's overwhelmed and she's late for work at the telephone company office where she's employed. In her private moment of despair, an older gentleman pokes his head through her door, offering welcome to the building. He sees her sitting there at the table with her son in her lap, surrounded by boxes, feeling miserable. The gentleman saw he could help. He gently asked if he could hang the towel rack in the bathroom. The young mother was surprised at his kindness, but, yes, please, that would be very nice. The gentleman went on to hang her curtain rods, her shower curtain. He checked the fuses and the smoke alarm. He made sure the windows were easily opened and closed. He threw out the old ice in the freezer and filled the trays with fresh water. The young mom realized in that moment that for the first time in her life, someone had acted on her behalf without any expectation of payment. A truly kind act. That moment, I can tell you, was life-changing. She, of course, was me, but you already knew that. And the gentleman who acted from kindness has been an inspiration to me in my decades of work in public service. I've not seen him since, and I will never forget him. But why did he help me? What inspired him to give without any likely reciprocation? What motivated him? That brings me to the question, what is kindness? In order to understand the what of kindness, I think we have to first understand the why. So then, why is kindness? Kindness exists because people are social animals. Our instincts tell us to stick together, and kindness creates social bonds. Kindness exists because its example is written into every great religious text in human history. Like patience, it's a virtue. Kindness is a natural, sympathetic human response to others. It's an impulse, a habit, a social instinct that has the impact of strengthening our bonds and bringing people closer together into a community. So, kindness exists because we truly need each other to survive and thrive. So then, what is kindness? It's tempting to look to the grand gestures, those moments that are impossible to ignore when the whole world is watching. But every day, quietly and without notice, there are millions of little kindnesses that occur everywhere. And importantly, millions more opportunities to reach out and change the course of someone's life for the better. Am I exaggerating? I don't think so. Of course, you and I can never know how our own lives would be different without those acts of kindness that have been gifted to us. I feel that I can truly say that we're better off, both those who give and those who receive, because of these simple and significant acts of kindness. So, kindness is a sympathetic instinct to lift up others, and it is one powerful way that humans support one another in an often unfriendly world. Here's a big thought. Can we organize ourselves around kindness? Let's think about that for a moment. What principles do we use to organize our communities today? Some of the most common attributes around which we organize include economic status, religion, gender, political affiliation, and race. What do you notice about all of these? I think they're all complex and full of nuance, and therefore easily divided again and again. Are you lower middle class or middle class? Or maybe lower upper middle class? Or what kind of Christian are you exactly? You get the idea. And this way of organizing generally leads to sorting those who are in the group and those who are out of the group. These concepts are complex. They are often contentious, and by their very nature tend to organize by fracturing us into smaller and smaller groups. These ideas also tend to inspire conflict. My own mother wouldn't let us talk about politics or religion at the dinner table, and I'll bet I'm not the only one whose mom felt that way. It's simply not polite conversation, and I don't understand why we would want to organize ourselves along those lines. What I notice is something far more basic, something that we each learned when we were very young and can therefore identify without agenda or confusion. It's a basic lesson, right? Be nice. That is, of course, very easy to say. Let's try to imagine then what the whole world would be like if kindness was our organizing principle. And to do that, let's keep a few ideas in mind. Kindness is a resource that does not abide by the rules of the resource economy. Any scarcity that we experience is a result of our individual choice. If we all decided to flood the world with kindness, what would happen? Here's what I think. 1, kindness would become more valuable. 2, there would be even more kindness available tomorrow. And 3, kindness would still be free. Freely chosen, freely given, and freely received. As humans, we have an unlimited capacity for kindness, and we're energized in both the giving and the receiving of it. Also, kindness has no shelf life. In fact, the memory of it seems to make it even more valuable. When I consider the rules of the resource economy, here are some things I think about. Does it enrich and expand my world by giving or receiving kindness? Yes, and yes. Does acting with kindness make my life better? Oh, yes, it does. Does it cost me anything to be kind? No, it does not. In our economy, which is powered by the forces of supply and demand, we make choices and have needs that we are able to articulate. Kindness subverts this traditional model of how people get what they need and what they want. This is because in this world of more than 7 billion people, there's a limitless supply and source of kindness and a limitless demand for kindness. You may be asking yourself, well, why does she say limitless demand for kindness? That's a great question. I'll say this. I do not dwell on the negatives in this world, but I'm not a fool, and I know they exist. I think that we must each understand negativity to play some role in our dualistic world, and then we must go further to recognize that much more suffering can be alleviated through the kind intention and action of others. To the degree that negativity exists, there is a demand for kindness. So in a world where so many suffer, there is limitless demand for it. A limitless demand for kindness. When I say demand for kindness, I'm not talking about dollars, nor gifts, nor checks in the mail. The demand for and supply of kindness makes math that does not add up. It's not really measurable, and that's important. Because kindness is created at no expense and it is not transacted for profit, the normal rules of supply and demand just do not apply. The examples of Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela show us that one person can generate enough kindness to light up the entire world. And so can you. And you, and you, and you. No pressure, of course. But there is more. So how we react to kindness is just as important as the act itself. Why is this? Because when a genuine act of kindness is recognized, it lives within those who witness it. It becomes the fuel that creates the potential for the next act of kindness. But we already know this. Just as infants model their behavior upon those around them, we as adults do the same. We've seen this take place time and time again. Someone is in danger or is faced with a challenge. There may be several people nearby who could potentially lend a hand, but it isn't until that first person makes a move and commits to helping that the others decide to take action. Have you read a story like this in the news? Of course, the other outcome occurs as well when no one responds to this need, and we may shake our heads later reading about it and go, why didn't any of those people help that poor person? Why is it so much easier to give when we see others doing it first? Do we need permission to be our best selves? What are we afraid will happen if we are that first responder to a person's needs? At this point, let's revisit the economics of kindness. One of the fundamental premises of economics is the law of supply and demand. If demand goes up and supply goes up, the price stays the same. If demand goes up but the supply goes down, it costs more, right? We see these dynamics at play with a variety of resources on which we depend. Fuel, food, even clean water. This thinking is built upon the notion of scarcity, that there is a limited supply and that at some point there will be less and less for all of us to share. Scarcity is a critical ingredient in conflict. After all, people fight about who should control these scarce resources and how should we share them, if at all. The new dream, of course, is renewable, sustainable energy, clean, abundant, and available to all. Anyway, kindness. Kindness is, in its way, the emotional version of renewable, sustainable energy, an infinite resource that costs nothing and that creates indisputably positive results. But we can go further. Just between us, kindness is subversive. Kindness changes the way we think about supply and demand. Rather than a small group of people controlling a limited resource, kindness is a choice that each and every one of us can make, belongs to no one and everyone, and is free to all. By practicing kindness in our everyday lives, by challenging ourselves to turn the logic of scarcity on its head and to replace it with a theory of abundance, What happens to conflict when resources are abundant? That's right. There is no conflict. No haves and have-nots. No us versus them. I understand that this is a simplification, and intentionally so. More than ever, we need to reinforce those simple, direct connections between one another. Rather than building upon the principle of scarcity, I'm suggesting that we build upon the principle of abundance. Community acts to undermine the economics of scarcity. Let me give you an example. Have you ever borrowed a cup of sugar from your neighbor? Yeah, me too. And what exactly do we mean when we use that term borrow in that context? Do we intend to return that very same cup of sugar to our generous neighbor? Are we tracking the amounts of sugar we borrowed? The number of times we borrowed the lawnmower? Oh, or the number of minutes our friend spent helping us find our lost cat? No. Why? Communities are a special place. Communities exist beyond the ledgers and accounting of scarcity economics. Yes, they operate on, depend upon even, a much more abstract form of accounting, a belief that what we share forms a critical bond. The sugar, the lawnmower, the lost cat. These are opportunities to reinforce our relationships and to reject the notion that everything must be reduced to some market value. Communities never run out of sugar. Communities always have more time to give. Communities are built upon the same foundational energy that's present in every act of kindness. There's a quote I want to reference here that goes something like, "Where trade crosses borders, armies do not." I prefer, "Where kindness crosses borders, there are none left to cross." How does kindness look when viewed through the lens of abundance? It looks like there is enough for everyone. It's a game changer, an infinite resource that costs literally nothing. I'm asking you to make a choice. The choice to be kind is yours to make. I want to point to a bit of evidence in our language that supports this, a clue that was left to us by our predecessors that suggests the intimate connection between the idea of kindness and what community actually means. That connection is a forgotten truth. The most contemporary meaning of the word kindness refers to being courteous. A less formal definition that is certainly closer to the meaning I embrace is the notion that being kind refers to a good turn of favor, friendliness, or goodwill. Wonderful. And please, let's practice all of these, but let's dig a bit deeper, shall we? Our language provides an amazing historical record, allowing us to look back not only at the way that people spoke, but more importantly, to better understand the way they thought and the way they felt. Full disclosure now, 450 years ago, the word kindness referred to a disease that occurred in Scotland, but let's not dwell on that. From the 14th through the 19th centuries, kindness meant kinship, a near or special relationship, and the natural affection arising from this. Yes, kindness means kinship, and kinship means community. In cultural anthropology, kinship refers to the recognized ties of relationship by descent, or marriage, or ritual that form the basis of social organization. Wow. I've learned that the idea of kindness community is, in a funny little way, a redundancy. Kindness means community, and community means kindness. Report that, please, kindness community, to the Department of Redundancy Department. In order for us to relate to one another, in order to rebuild our communities, we must practice our remarkable capacity for kindness. We must recall a truth that each of us instinctively knows, because if we look back upon our lives with clarity, we most likely will find that it was an act of kindness that kept us in orbit, that kept us from drifting too far, beyond the sphere of security that our communities, at their best, provide for us. Kindness is kinship. Kindness is community. I'd like to challenge you with these questions. Will you share your infinite capacity for kindness with the world, with our world? Will you join me in celebrating those acts of kindness so that we might inspire others to follow our lead? There are no admission fees. There are no annual dues. Everyone is welcome. And I personally am inviting you to become a member of the Kindness Community. Thank you.